to life.
He still takes the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go out some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You are fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best start here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Thanks for joining this wonderful Saturday night of Memorial Day weekend, heading into the absolute best day of motorsports of the year. Monaco for the F1 race, Indy 500, and ending the day with the Coca-Cola 600. It always is the best day of the year, next to Christmas, I guess. And there are other days, but for racing fans, this is our Christmas all wrapped up into one big package. And sadly, it looks like it will be the last time we do this. At least the triple header. Monaco looks to be moving to June. So next year it'll just be Indy and the Coke 600. All good things must come to an end at some point, I guess. But either way, at least we still have the two American races going. But I appreciate you tuning in tonight. I took last weekend off. It just, the exhibition style races and how they have gimmicks built into them and not having a full field to kind of break down, it just makes it really tough to do a Draftkings analysis. You can do one right after the open, but that's real limited on time, and considering the amount of data that we try to go through, it just makes it really, really tough. So I took last weekend off, but that will probably be the last weekend off, pretty much, I think, for the rest of the year, at least the Cup Series. So buckle in. We've got quite a few weeks left to go. Let's see, this is 13. So that leaves 23 more races to go. So yeah, we've got quite a stretch to go down. And the more and more I keep doing this, the more and more I keep adding to this video and stream and data and everything else. Just because there happens to be more and more data that NASCAR is giving us. So it gives us a better opportunity to look at everything. Either way, before we get to the Coca-Cola 600, let's rewind 2 weeks to the Advent Health 400 at Kansas Speedway, which typically has tended to be the best race of the year. And being a Kyle Larson fan, in some instances, was the best race of the year. Except for Draftkings, I did not expect Kyle Larson to go out and lead 221 laps of the 267, and that just didn't turn out real well for my Draftkings. May have been one of the worst weekends so far of the year, so sorry if anybody happened to take a whole lot of my advice last week, but those things happened, and guess what? We reload, we dive into what may or may not have happened, and we get ready for this week, because it's every week for quite a few weeks of the year. But let's take a look at those points, and holy smokes, Kyle Larson with 130 points. Still not close to his almost 200-point race day at Bristol earlier this year, but Kyle Larson is racking up some Dominator races this year. Holy camoles. He's got 7 optimal races out of 12 total races so far, excluding the exhibition type races. But the points paying races, he is 7 optimals in. Ross Chastain with 5, Christopher Bell with 4, Byron, Blaney, Bowman, Preece all with 4 also. But yeah, 221 laps led by Kyle Larson last weekend. I also did not expect Corey Heim to get a 13th place finish. But I tell you what, if he is going to start putting up those types of numbers, it will be wild to see what comes about when he gets into full time Cup. Because right now he is, I think he's got like 8 or 9 optimal um, lineups in the Truck Series currently. It's insane what he's doing in the trucks this year. Um, so it'll be exciting to see him make his way up to the Cup Series and what he can do once he gets there. Because I mean, he took a underfunded, non full time team and took it to a 13th place finish at Kansas in his second start in the Cup Series. Pretty impressive. All right, either way, let's head to the Coke 600, which last year was the Coke 373.5 because it rained. And it rained a lot. And it happened to rain as soon as Kyle Larson got to the track from where Indy had been delayed because of rain. Luckily, the forecast currently for Indianapolis calls for no rain. Almost 0% chance it will be a little bit overcast and a little breezy at Indy. So not expecting any delays there. When we get to Charlotte, it becomes a little bit more hit or miss. They do have about a 30% chance of rain starting at about 2 in the afternoon and kind of hovering in that 20 to 30% chance all the way through what would be the conclusion of the race at about midnight or 11 o'clock. So we're going to have to dodge a few showers in Charlotte to get this whole thing in, and hopefully our fingers crossed that they do that, because NASCAR got a lot of flack last year for Kyle Larson showing up, them throwing the red flag because of rain, and then not going back when the track actually was probably dry. Yeah, it would have finished at like 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, but it's the biggest, I mean, next to the Daytona 500, in my opinion, the Coke 600 is the biggest race that NASCAR has. So hopefully they get the entire 600 in tomorrow, because we also build lineups for that. So fingers crossed. The Coke 600 is at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It is an intermediate quad oval track. It is 1.5 miles in length. It is 24 degrees in the bankings. 400 laps. They have 3 stages instead of 2. It's 100, 100, 100, and 100 to finish it up. Dominator points will be a factor, 280 of those to be exact, coming from 100 from laps led and 180 from fast laps. Even though we typically do see quite a few different leaders throughout the night, they typically lead in bunches. So typically 50, 60, 70 laps. It may not be a true dominator for some drivers, but we have seen some drivers go out and lead 300 laps of this race. I don't think in this next-gen car, with the different strategies that happen, that we necessarily see something like that. So I think what you're kind of looking for is maybe 1 or 2 drivers that you think are going to lead over 100 or so laps. That's kind of the way I'm leaning into this. Other tracks that we can kind of look at as comparisons would be Texas, Vegas, Charlotte, Kansas, Miami, pretty much any of the 1.5 miles that they go to. And because Texas has different turns 1 and 2 to 3 and 4, that one really doesn't quite work out the same as Charlotte. More Vegas and Kansas would be the ones to really look at. Miami is a more of a true oval style track. Our optimal lineups from previous Coke 600s. Last year was only 249 laps instead of 400, so the Dominator points got a little skewy. But Christopher Bell had 90 laps led last year, and Brett Keselowski came from 30th to finish second. So we will have some guys that are going to make their way to the front, and we've definitely got some opportunities for some drivers to do that who showed up pretty well in practice and either didn't qualify or didn't qualify well and had a little bit of a slip in qualifying. But either way, just kind of make sure that you're always kind of looking at this number here. It's the 55.1. That's kind of the, well, that one's 55.1. Here is 66.8, mostly because we had more laps. But in the 2023 race, Ryan Blaney led 163 of the 400 laps. Like I said, it's typically two drivers. Like last year, 74 laps led by Ty Gibbs, kind of put him on that optimal. So definitely going to target some optimal drivers with both dominator points and with place differential. But then you've got probably one or two drivers that will kind of start up front, stay up front, and get their way into the optimal lineup. So kind of like William Byron, he only led 49 laps, started in second, finished in third. Definitely not a dominator type of day, but definitely a solid day for William Byron. Oh yeah, congrats to William Byron for winning the Xfinity race today. Led a bunch of laps early, then ended up getting a speeding pit road penalty and had to go to the rear, I think at the start of stage 3, and then drove his way all the way up to the front in 100 laps. Other optimal lineups from 2022, the first year of the next-gen car, Ross Chastain led 153 laps, and the 2021 Kyle Larson led 327 laps. So it is definitely not out of the reason that Kyle Larson could easily go down there and lead 300 plus laps. That's going to be a long day. You have to remember that he's going to be racing the Indy 500 and then coming to the Coke 600. I mean, right now, currently, if there's any driver out there that can probably pull that off, it's going to be Kyle Larson. And for not having any real practice and not really kind of getting a feel for the car or having a lot of time to talk to his crew chief, he just kind of jumped into the car and went. He was actually pretty decent in practice, and he kind of really did well in qualifying too. So he could easily be somebody that we will need to emphasize into our lineups. Okay, from previous Charlotte races, where do our points come from in starting positions? On average, 5 of the 15 top point getters are coming from the top 10 starting spots. The next biggest group is 11 through 20, that has an average of 4. And then 21 through 30 has about 3 drivers that come from there, and only 2 drivers starting 31st or worst on average make the top 15 in Draftkings points. And kind of the floor, to say the least amount of points, kind of averages out to be about 35. So 35 is kind of the bottom of the line. So when we get into our driver by driver breakdown, we will put that into the calculator and kind of keep that in mind as we kind of look to see, do we think that this driver has the capability? Have they shown that in the past? What was their practice speeds? What are their averages? And those types of things. And 35 is kind of the baseline. That's as kind of the low as you want to go with any driver. If you don't think they're going to make it to 35, or it's going to be a tough day for them to get to 35 or more, you just want to exclude them from your lineups. I have started doing that in the truck and Xfinity, and it's definitely started to help with my finishes in Draftkings on those. So it's still a little new on the Cup side, but we're going to play with those numbers and see what we get. All right, Kyle Larson, our most expensive driver in Draftkings. He is also Las Vegas, or the betting odds favorite, at I think only plus 400. I've seen some at like plus 350. I mean, that is a really, in my opinion, Kyle Larson could easily win this race, no doubt. I mean, he has shown that he has 3 wins this year. He's been super dominant at the tracks that he has won at, and he is starting outside pole position for this race. But only a plus 400 is extremely low in the betting markets. When we kind of, if you're betting, Vegas really thinks that Kyle Larson probably has a really good chance at winning this race. I have not looked at the odds for the Indy race to see what Kyle Larson's odds are to win the Indy race. It's probably much greater than that. We can look real quick. Indy 500 betting odds. Pato is the highest. Predictions. Kyle Larson is 18-1, so 1,800. I wonder what it would be to put him into a Kyle Larson. Let's see. It's over here. Kyle Larson. If you put him into a parlay together, does that even come up? Indy, let's see, motorsports. What Indy series? Kyle Larson. They won't let you parlay it. Oh well. I bet you that's probably 35-1, maybe 30-1. But yeah, be interesting to see if you could actually find that, if they're able to parlay that somewhere. But yeah, it's, in my opinion, I mean, it's tough to bet against him, but it's also real risky to bet for him too. I don't know. I don't know if I love the odds on that, but Vegas sure thinks that he's got a really good chance. All right. On this sheet here, as we break this down, if you are new to here, and we've actually got a few new subscribers in the past few streams, I appreciate you subscribing. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. I usually go live Saturday nights at about 9 o'clock most weeks, depending on schedules and Xfinity schedules and things of that nature. But so this is the Kyle Larson sheet, I guess, for best purposes. This guy's price for DraftKings, $11,500. He is the most expensive driver in DraftKings. He is starting outside pole in the second position. This is his practice speeds. He was in Group 2, and that's what this is signifying. And Group 2 at most tracks will show a slower practice speed because the track has started to warm a little bit more. And the track is what they called rubbered in, which meaning the rubber has started to work its way into the pavement, which actually makes the track a little bit slower. It gives the ability for the tires to kind of slide around on that rubber, especially as that rubber begins to heat inside the track. It does make it a little slicker. There's ways to adjust to it, but it does make your car a little bit slower. So that's why typically the second practice group is a little slower than the first practice group. His one lap speed was 21st. He did 31 total laps of practice, and he was 16th on the 10 lap consecutive average. That is 10 laps run consecutively without coming in for a pit stop or an adjustment. They do only get one set of tires for each practice. This line, the next line here, is he has 4 starts. Those 4 starts come from these 5 races. The Charlotte race last year of 2024, which he did not run. That's why he's only got 4 of 5. 2023, the Vegas spring race from earlier this year, the Texas race from earlier this year, and the Kansas race from 2 weeks ago are the 5 tracks that we're using for the comparisons. Kyle Larson does have the 1 win at Kansas. He has 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and 3 top 20s out of his 4 starts of those 5 tracks. A 67.2 DraftKings average, an 11th place average finish, and his average running position is 5.6. He did not race in the Coke, 373.5 or Coke 600 last year. So there is no finishing position for him. Justin Allgaier did, I think, finish 13th in Kyle's car. So not being a Cup driver, but driving the setup for Kyle, Justin Allgaier was able to get that car to 13th. He has 14 total starts at Charlotte on the oval. That does not include the Roval portion, but 14 total starts on the oval with 1 win, 3 top 5s, 6 top 10s, 8 top 20s, and a 13.9 average finish. The checkered flags are the 3 signifying the 3 victories that Kyle Larson has in points-paying races so far this year. Now we go to our practice speeds chart. Ty Gibbs was kind of the one that kind of followed the average line the best, and he kind of had a pretty even flow for his practice speed. So he's kind of the car that I'm using as the steady, and then you have the average line, which is white. And yes, I did do red, white, and blue for the Memorial Day weekend. So yes, that will be the look for the rest of tonight. Kyle Larson is in the blue, and you can kind of see he was tracking right along. Most of the time, he was a little bit better than average, a little better than Ty Gibbs in some spots, but he did not run quite as long as Ty. But they both followed that kind of that average line. So also looking at it, Ty Gibbs had a pretty good practice session along with Kyle Larson. Ty Gibbs was in the first group, which was the little bit faster group. So Kyle Larson coming out and running pretty fast laps is something to think about. All right, now our kind of calculator and what we look at when we're building our DraftKings lineups and what we kind of think might happen. So we can get this pulled up and started. So Kyle Larson is actually starting in the second position. He's got an average finish of 11th. So we can just start with that. And he does have an average lap led. For the 5 tracks that we're comparing to, he has an average laps led of 93. So we can put that in. And he's got an average fast laps of 34, which then gets us to 61.5. And for his price tag, he would need to get to probably at least 60 points for him to be potentially in the optimal lineup. So he can go out and lead 93 laps, finish 11th, start in second, have 34 fast laps, and still probably have enough to make the optimal lineup or at least within the top 10 of the DraftKings points. Now we can play around with this a little bit more, and let's say Kyle Larson goes out and finishes first. And we see that now jumps him to 84.5. We then can go, okay, what happens if he has a mediocre race and finishes 25th? Well, we could see that now takes him to 32.5. That takes him probably outside the top 15 in points. And definitely for his price tag of $11,500, it's something definitely you would not want to play. So you pretty much have to assume or think that if you want to run Kyle Larson, he's going to need to lead 90 laps. He's going to need to have about 30 fast laps, and he's going to need to finish in the top 10. If you're good with all that, then Kyle Larson's definitely somebody you want to keep as a viable option for your lineups. Next in line here, we've got Denny Hamlin at $11,000, second highest priced guy in DraftKings this week, starting 20th. He was in the first practice session, which was the little bit of the faster of the two. He was 4th in single lap. He did 41 total laps of practice, and he was 19th on the 10-lap consecutive chart. Denny Hamlin's, for the 5 races we're comparing to, Denny Hamlin has a very impressive 27.8, and I'm being very sarcastic about that, but an average finish of 27.8. Now, he had a transmission problem at Kansas last week, and he blew up at Texas, so both of those were last place finishes, which definitely killed his average. Were those Denny Hamlin's problems? No, but they still happened. It still throws it into question on what is 400 laps going to do if they're having technical issues at Joe Gibbs currently. Denny thinks that they were one-offs and that there won't be a problem for Charlotte this weekend, but anybody can have an engine problem at any time. Also, anybody could blow a tire and hit the wall. Anybody could get caught up in somebody else's mess. So that's why this is sometimes very difficult. So I just always look at, I'm going to take the technical issues out, I'm going to take the wrecks out and go, how far do I think that they can finish? I think 27.8 is absurd for Denny Hamlin as an average finish. It's probably going to be, on average, probably about 12th or 13th. Because his average running position was 20.8 when it happened. He's got 33 total starts at Charlotte with a 10.3 average finish. So that kind of is a little bit better of an average finishing look. So, with that being said, if we look at our practice speeds, of course, red is Ty Gibbs and blue is Denny Hamlin. very, very similar lap times. I literally could have probably almost used Denny Hamlin as the control car in this instance, but you just got to pick somebody and kind of go with it. And a lot of people for practice really were very, very close to the average and the median times. And you can really see the fall off is about 1 second over 40 laps, which is somewhat significant. So kind of keep that in mind that if they get to 30 laps into a run or 30 laps on the tires, they're definitely going to come in and at least get right side tires. They could potentially, if they get to 40 laps, probably get all four. So there is a little bit of a strategy play at Charlotte. The cars don't seem to mind just getting right side tires. But with this new left side tire that they've got that does have a tendency to wear a little bit more than it used to, that might be a little bit more on the risky side. But if you've got a quick run, that could definitely be there. What's up, Ken? Good evening. How you doing? Let's go racing, boys. Yes, absolutely. Let's go racing. Best day of the year next year or tomorrow. But Denny Hamlin, $11,000. He is starting in the 20th position. Like I said before, his average finish is 28. I mean, sure, that's possible, but I'm not going to go with that. So let's change his starting spot to 20th. Yeah, let's cut that down to half. Let's go to 14. And let's see, what is Denny Hamlin's average? He has 4.6 average laps led and 8 fast laps. So let's go here. Let's go 8 and 4. What do we get to? 39.6. That's enough to probably get him in the top 15 in Draftkings points. It's probably not enough to get him to the optimal. So what do we need to potentially think for Denny to get to the optimal? Is it 7th? Not quite enough. Is it 4? So if we think Denny Hamlin can get to 4th, and if that's the case, he's probably going to have a few more fast laps than that, so we can probably add a couple more. Let's go to 12, and maybe even leads more than 4 laps. Let's say he leads 10 laps. That definitely puts him there, and that probably could even have him slide to 6th place. That would be just right there at the potential optimal line that we want to think about. So if you think Denny Hamlin can get to a top 6 and lead and have fast laps in the double digits, then Denny Hamlin's very viable. I think Denny Hamlin is viable. He will be in part of my lineups. Starting the 20th, we've got some decent place differential. We've got a lot of guys that have a lot of place differential potential. So I don't think Denny Hamlin's going to absorb and eat up a lot of ownership. My guess is he's probably going to be high teens, low 20s. So just call it a 20% ownership, where I think Kyle Larson will probably be closer to 35, maybe even 40%. I think he might get a little bit less ownerships because, kind of like me, I mean, even being a Kyle Larson fan, I'd still just worry about running 1,100 miles in a race. I think Tony Stewart did it, and I think he finished. I know he competed in all the laps. Let's see if I can find that real quick. The double duty, Indy and Charlotte. Tony Stewart. What did Tony Stewart finish that day? Tony Stewart. It is 5 drivers have attempted defeat, starting with John Andretti. Tony Stewart became the first and only driver to compete in all 1,100 miles on the same day. Does it say where he finished and started? For Busch, Larson's now going to do it twice. No driver has won either race while attempting defeat. Tony Stewart ever stand at combined results 6th at Indy and 3rd at Charlotte. That's phenomenal. So yeah, that's kind of the mark that I'm looking for Kyle Larson to get. So I mean, that's pretty impressive to go at 6th at Indy and then go and finish 3rd at the Charlotte race. So that's pretty impressive to say the least. But either way, back to Denny Hamlin. If you think he can get to a top 5 finish and lead a handful of laps and have a handful of fast laps, he's definitely in play. And like I said, I think he probably ends up with some decent ownership. I think it'll be in the kind of the 20% range. Christopher Bell, our All-Star winner. Congrats to Christopher Bell on winning the All-Star. That would be his 4th win of the year, but it doesn't count for points. So 3-point total wins this year. His price tag is $11,700. He is 10th on the starting grid. He was 26th in practice on single lap and also 26th on 10-lap consecutive average. He does have 1 win at the 5 races that we're comparing to. I think it was the Vegas race earlier this year that he got that win. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 9.6 average finish. That's a really good average finish for those 5 races. Christopher Bell is definitely a solid pick when it comes to the 1.5-mile cookie cutter oval style tracks. He did win the rain-shortened Coke 373.5 last year. Unsure if he would have won if it had been a full 400 laps, but we'll never know. So he does have the 1 win here at Charlotte. His practice speeds looked pretty good. He actually, when who was it? Ross Chastain ended up having an issue in practice at about lap 20 on his run. They ended up having to throw the caution and red flag, and all the teams came in. They made some adjustments, and this is where that line kind of differentiates. And you can see Christopher Bell fire back off very, very quickly after they made a little bit of adjustments. So Christopher Bell definitely has got some speed in his car. And I think starting in 10th, it's a pretty solid starting spot. So let's kind of take a look here. We'll start him at 10. And his average finish, I think, was 9. So let's move him down to 9th. And let's see. Christopher Bell's average laps led are 28 and fast laps of 15. So we'll move this down to 28. That's 49.75. That's not quite enough to make the optimal lineup that we're looking for. So what does Christopher Bell need to do with his day to get to there? Let's move him up to 5th. That's getting close. Probably 3rd would do it. Yep. So if you think Christopher Bell is a good spot to get a 3rd place finish, lead 28 laps, have 15 fast laps, Christopher Bell is definitely in play. I'm not saying he's not in play if he goes and gets a 6th place finish and has kind of those numbers. A 55.75 is definitely a solid day, but it's going to be right on the outside of what I think needs to be for the optimal for his price tag. Ken says after the race interview, he was about dead. I don't think Kyle Larson will be able to win the race. Maybe a top 10. What happens if he wins Indy? You're fading him. Yeah, I think you definitely need to pay close attention to the Indy race, whether you're an Indy race fan or a Kyle fan. But if you're a DraftKings NASCAR betting, fantasy playing player, you need to definitely pay attention. And it's also, I mean, if you're a motorsports fan, you're going to pay attention to the Indy 500. If there is any type of weather delay or time delay, and you'll hear it on the TV all day, and if you have Twitter/X, there will be lots of people chiming in on how long it takes to get from Indianapolis to Charlotte. I think it's like an hour and a half. So, I mean, Kurt didn't have any problem getting back. Tony Stewart didn't have any problems getting back. The only one who had a problem was Kyle Larson because they literally didn't finish the race and the Coke 600 had already started. There's no way to go back in time, at least not yet. So you just need to pay very close attention to what's happening in Indianapolis. If Kyle Larson is going to finish in the top 3 or potentially even get the win, if he wins, they will rush through. I mean, honestly, I mean, the problem is it puts Kyle at jeopardy with the playoffs, because I don't think NASCAR will play nicely this go around with missing a race by going and racing in another series. That being said, you go and win the Indianapolis 500. I honestly don't think you care anymore. You've won the biggest race of the year. um, but I also think there would be a real intriguing factor of you won the Indy 500, drink your milk, wave to the fans, take a few pictures, and say, I'll be back tomorrow to take more if I need to. But I'm going to go race the Coke 600, and I'm going to go try to win it. He's got one of the fastest cars. He is the betting favorite. So why would you not go try to win both? I mean, if you could do that, you at that point you just go ahead and write yourself into the Hall of Fame for maybe both sports. It would literally almost solidify him as probably the best motor sports driver in the world. I mean, there's already arguments saying that he is. And I mean, honestly, I'm not sure there's many other drivers that can go and do what Kyle Larson does. And if he did the double and won both, yeah, it would be one of the greatest sport feats ever. So yeah, I mean, if you win Indy, you definitely have to get back to race the Coke 600. I mean, even if you go get a top 3, that's still just massively impressive. I mean, to win either one's going to be impressive enough. So I'm definitely going to try to see if I can find somewhere to bet the win on both. I bet you it's probably 35-1. Would be my guess. All right, enough Kyle Larson talk. We could spend all night talking about him. But William Byron, 10,500, starting in third. And our winner today at the Xfinity race, led a bunch of laps and had to go to the rear and came back and still won the race at 100 laps. And William Byron has the best average finish that the 5 tracks were compared to without a win. Quite impressive, actually. I mean, gosh, if you're William Byron and Kyle Larson's running second to you at the end of the Coke 600 and Kyle just won the Indy 500, do you just pull over and let him win? I don't think so, but man, that's a tough one not to do. William Byron, he was actually really kind of quick in practice. He was 8th in single lap, 7th in 10 lap consecutive average. He was in Group 2, which was a little bit of the slower of the group. He finished 3rd in the Coke 373.5 last year. He did finally solidify his win today in the Xfinity Series for his first win at Charlotte, and he is a hometown boy, grew up in Charlotte area. Let's look at his practice speeds. Fired off actually pretty quick, and then made an adjustment and fired off real quick again. Then looks like they had the issue on with Ross. They came back and made a little bit of adjustments, but he was quick and quicker than most for, I don't know, from lap 10 to looks like 18, 19. So William Byron definitely has got some speed in his car. Starting in third, though, what does William Byron need to do to potentially make the optimal lineup or have a decent points day? His average finish is 9th, so we'll leave it. We'll go to 9th. We'll start there. He has an average laps led of 34.4 and average fast laps of 17 over the 5 races that we're comparing to anyways. So let's kind of laps led of 34 and 17. I need to add that to my little chart up here, so I might have to keep looking at a different spreadsheet. That's a 45.15. That's enough to be top 15 in points, but that's going to be enough to make the optimal lineup, especially at his price tag. What does William Byron need to do to get to the 60? Let's start where you finish, or finish where you start. That's third. And you're going to need to lead 45 laps? Is that enough? Nope. That's 5 laps. I need 45 laps. That's 59.9. That's pretty much close enough. You can make it 46 or make it 18, and that's going to put him at the 60, which I think is the threshold. Anything more or better and that'll definitely put him there. I think William Byron definitely has the potential to easily be a top 3 car tomorrow. He has shown the speed on average there. He finished third last year in this race. It was the 373.5 instead of the 600, but either way, yeah, I definitely like William Byron as a play, even though he is starting close to the front. He'll have no problem getting through the entire 600. He's done it multiple times in the past and had good finishes. So I definitely like the William Byron play tomorrow. Ryan Blaney starting in the 21st position. He was in the second group of practice, so what would be the slower group. Even though William Byron made everybody look silly with that one. 10,200. He was 19th in single lap, 18th in 10 lap consecutive average. I mean, pretty consistent over his run. We'll look at the chart here in 1 second. He does have one win here at Charlotte. It was in the 2023 race. He's got, for the 5 races we're comparing to, 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 16.2 average finish, and a 14.1 average running position. He did fit a miserable 39th place last year in the Coke 373.5. Let's look at his practice speeds. And this is the part that slightly concerns me, is we're going along fine, then we spike, and then we come back, and then we spike again, and we come back, and he's a little inconsistent. But when we get to the rest of the Penske cars, they seem to be very off-balanced. Concerning potentially. They didn't qualify all that well, so we've got a decent amount of place differential here. And I almost like the Ryan Blaney starting in 21st compared to Denny Hamlin starting in 20th. At least Ryan Blaney has shown that he's been finishing these types of races pretty well. Like I said, he did have a 39th last year, but finished first 2 years ago. A lot of place differential here for Ryan Blaney. He'll probably be closer to 30-35% owned. I definitely like him for a PD play, and I probably like him for probably a top 10, maybe even a top 5. Well, he's got an average finish of 16th for the 5 races we're comparing to, so let's break it down. Starting in 21st. What do we got here? Starting in 21st, we'll start with the averages. Let's just go with the averages and see what that gives us. Ryan Blaney has an average laps led of 33 and fast laps of 20. So let's punch that in. 33 and 20. All right, so just right off the bat, he's at a 49.25. It's probably going to be a little tough to finish 16th and lead 33 laps. So let's just move him to 8th. Well, that definitely puts him there. But let's say he only leads 3 laps. 58.75. So we're going to need to get down to a 7th. Yeah. So 21st to 7th. Lead 3 laps, but have 20 fast laps on your way up to a 7th place finish will put you in that optimal lineup. So anything better than that will just improve the odds. So if you think that's possible, definitely keep him in your group of guys that you're going to start. I mean, we're still in the $10,000 price range, and we've already got Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, all, in my opinion, very viable. Larson potentially is a fade. Denny is potentially a fade, but he's got a decent amount of place differential. I think William Byron right now is one of the better cash option plays or small field tournament plays, along with Ryan Blaney, to be perfectly honest. I think this is a pretty typically a safe bet that he's going to work his way at least up until the top 10. More than likely, probably get to somewhere closer to a top 5. Tyler Reddick, who has been, in my opinion, pretty inconsistent so far this year, especially at the mile and a half, which seemed to be his bread and butter the last 2 years. So it's a little interesting because all of 2311, all being the 3 of them, and Riley Herbst really doesn't count because he's still just a rookie. I'm not sure he really knows how to start the car at this point. I'm kidding. He's been doing fine for a rookie. He's doing better than SVG, so take that for what it's worth. But yeah, 2311, they've definitely kind of struggled at their mile and a half program this year. But either way, Tyler Reddick, $10,000 starting in 12th. He was 5th in single lap, 9th in 10 lap, which was actually a little faster than William Byron, and he was in the second group. So at least his practice speeds were pretty fast. He's got a 14.2 average finish. He finished 4th in this race last year. And he's got a 9.5 average finish over the 6 starts at Charlotte. Like I said, Group 2, it was at about this spot where Ross Chastain hit the wall. They were all a little bit on different laps, but this was his lap 14. They came in, made adjustments, and they fired off extremely fast again, and then kind of got back into the average. Now, once again, we're very sporadic, but I do know that this point in practice, especially in Group 2, everybody came in and made adjustments, which then they were able to fire off faster. And that's going to be the big thing tomorrow. They're going to probably pit on minimum 9 times. On the high end, 15 or 16 times. And they're going to make adjustments each time. And the racetrack is going to start off in potentially cloud cover, but still warm, probably about 75, 80 degrees. And by the time they finish this race tomorrow night, it's going to be probably in the low 60s, maybe high 50s. And Charlotte is notorious for going through really large swings in the way the track handles. All right, either way. Tyler Reddick starting in the 12th position. Let's break it down. Average finish, 14th. Let's just start there. Well, then we'll see where he needs to go. Now, Tyler Reddick has got 21 fast laps and 13 laps led. All right. 21 and 13. What? That definitely gives us 39.75 because we have a PD deficit. So if we say he gets to, let's cut it in half and go to 6th. Okay, that puts him close. 4th puts him over the edge. So Tyler Reddick needs to have a top 5 finish, probably 4th. Lead a couple laps and have about 20 fast laps. Very possible. Just remember, they have struggled a little bit finishing well. They haven't been finishing bad. I'm talking about 23:11. I mean, Tyler Reddick's definitely in play. I will be probably a slight fade, but not a complete fade with Tyler Reddick. I think it's a decent play. I think it could be slightly sneaky because, I mean, we've already seen we've got Denny Hamlin starting in 20th, which will have a big place differential. We've got Ryan Blaney starting in 21st, which will be a high place differential. Our next up, Chase Elliott, is 22nd. Another huge potential place differential. I think Tyler Reddick being sandwiched between all these guys, starting in 12th, and not having huge success so far this year, especially at the mile and a halfs where he's had really good success, I think probably plays to where Tyler Reddick could end up being slightly on the sneaky pick. So just kind of, if you're looking for that potential sneaky pick on where other people are going to go, I mean, 5 years ago, before I really started digging into a lot of this and really kind of playing this for real seriousness, I always played it for fun and kind of would do some breakdowns in my mind. But, you know, honestly, I mean, if I'm the average normal DFS player that's not digging deep, I'm not going to take Tyler Reddick. I'm going to take a Chase Elliott or Ryan Blaney that has 10 spots more place differential. So Tyler Reddick's going to get a little bit under-owned because he's sandwiched in between all these guys. But Chase Elliott started in 22nd. He was 12th in single lap, 14th in 10-lap consecutive average. 16.4 average finish here for the 5 races we're comparing to, and a 13.5 over 13 total starts with 1 win at the Charlotte racetrack, Motor Speedway. And, I mean, you literally throw a blanket over Ty Gibbs, Chase Elliott, and the average. Very, very similar looking times. In fact, if I'm just kind of glancing at it, it looks like Chase Elliott actually has really, really consistent lap times, and I really like how there's very little jaggedness to it. Very consistent across the long run. 9,000. Okay, so starting in 22nd, his average finish is 16th. So let's start plugging this in. This is gonna be very similar to the other three that we kind of looked at, but we'll plug them all in so that way you kind of, if you need to go back, rewind this thing when you're setting up lineups tomorrow and kind of see where everything falls, it will be here for you to look at. Average finish of 16th. His average laps led of 7 and fast laps of 4. 7 and 4. All right, so just on the averages, he's going to get a 36.5. Well, we think that that's probably going to improve. So let's go to 8th place, and we'll give him at least 10 more fast laps. Actually, we'll go to 14. Well, that's 58.05. Well, at $9,000, we're now starting to get to the point where you can almost get away with a 58.5 for that price tag. You really have to be over 60 plus for anything. Oh, sorry, he's 9,500. We have to change that. Sorry, 9,500. So yeah, he probably still needs to get much closer to 60. So he's going to need to probably get to a 7th place finish, which kind of is where he's been falling all year. The problem is he hasn't led a whole lot of laps by doing that. So we're going to lose a little bit there. Let's say he doesn't lead any. 58.3. So then he's going to need to probably go to 6th. Yeah. So 6th place, don't lead any laps, but have 14 fast laps on your way up there. And you're in that, and you're in the discussion for optimal lineup. So, I think you could probably even get away with running a Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Elliott type of lineup. It's going to be very top heavy at that point, but I think it does potentially play. And then you've got Joey Logano, $9,200 starting in 16th. His practice speeds were really bad. 29th in single lap, 34th in 10 lap consecutive average. He does have one win. I don't remember where that was. Texas? Did Joey win Texas? I can't remember. All my weeks are starting to run together already. That's not good. Yeah, it was Texas. He did win Texas. Yeah, so starting in 16th, practice speeds were average finish of 12th, though. So we're one of the better average finishes. He's got 2 wins at Charlotte, 6 top 5s, 11 top 10s, and 20 top 20s out of 26 total starts. Pretty consistent. But like I said before, Ryan Blaney showed the same type of just way up, way down, way up, way down practice speeds, and he was slower than the average for the most part, and definitely slower than Ty Gibbs. That's a little concerning. Once again, all the Penske's have shown this type of what I would say is imbalance in the race car. So they're searching for balance. Now, that could be that they're setting up for a potential run later in the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, when the track begins to cool a little bit. And then you also have to remember, they're going to have at minimum 8 pit stops before they get to the final stage. And they're going to make adjustments on this car as the night wears on. So I'm not overly concerned with it being as ragged as it is. You know, starting in 16th, let's plug it in and see. I don't love it, though. But just like Tyler Reddick, Joe Logano probably is going to get overlooked. I mean, he also did just win Texas. Now, it was a chaotic Texas that he won. All right, so 12th place average finish. Let's see what the fast lap averages are. Oops, I went to the wrong page. Let's see. 1 second. I get the right sheet again. Joey Logano has 10 laps led and 5 fast laps. 10, and this is a 5. All right, so that takes us as a starting point, 39.75 as our starting point. So what does Joey Logano need to get to? And Joey's not typically one a mile and a half city. He's going to go out and lead a ton of laps. So we'll leave the laps led at 10, but we'll get you up to 5th, 54.75. It's probably not going to be enough. And I'm not sure he's going to need a lot of help to get to a 3rd. That still doesn't really do it. But he probably has more fast laps if he does that. So move him up to 10. All right. So definitely top 5, if not more. Ken says they were talking about Penske cars having to be real careful not to fail tech because of the Indy penalties. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be something that the NASCAR officials would be potentially looking at, but the two programs really are run extremely separate. I mean, Austin Cindric's dad, can't remember what his name is, was on the Indy side and didn't have anything to do with the NASCAR side. I mean, other than having the Penske name, they're in different shops. They're completely separate organizations. But I could see the thought process of one race team, one group, or one ownership group was doing something in one league, but the whole thing is this Indy thing. The thing that was on the car had been on the car for multiple weeks. In fact, I think I even heard that the race-winning Penske car from last year was still sitting at Indianapolis on display with whatever the part was that they found was cheating. So literally the car from last year's Indy 500 that went through all of the tech, winner's tech and everything, they said was fine. This year, it's not. And they were running it earlier this year. So, I mean, is it really cheating if you've literally gone through all the tech how many times? And I don't know. Yes, it was cheating. Yes, they found it cheating, but the two organizations, yeah, they may have been a little careful, but this is kind of typical for Penske to have, and the Fords to kind of have this type of practice. Kind of what I'm noticing. They seem, mostly Penske, they seem to be very searching for different things on the track as practice is going on. And I don't think they're necessarily trying to go out and have the fastest times. And as I get more and more of this data and more of these types of charts, I'll start to overlay them a little bit more and more and kind of see if this is really the pattern that I'm thinking is happening and find out if it actually is. Because if it is, then that's something maybe we need to pay attention to, that, oh my gosh, why is Ryan Blaney's chart nice and flat, where the past 10 weeks it's not been, and he's finished really good. I don't know if it's any correlation or causation, but it's, we're just now really starting to get this data on a regular basis, and that's when you start to figure out what's going on. Ross Chastain, $9,000. I mean, this is another one. I mean, Joey Logano is probably going to get way under-owned because you literally have Ross Chastain starting in 40th. I mean, right before Chase Elliott starting in 22nd. So Joey Logano and Tyler Reddick are absolutely going to get missed on ownership because people are going to gravitate to a Ross Chastain. I mean, I know that I'm probably going to have plenty of Ross Chastain. He's going to be the heavily owned driver in the field. He's got an average finish of 11th. He finished 8th in the Coke 373.5. He doesn't have a win here at Charlotte. It only has one top 10. But when we get to the calculator, heck, he's all got to do is finish 20th. And, I mean, he was the fastest car in practice until he blew the tire. Well, the reason why he was the fastest was they had super low air pressures and they damaged the tire, but the super low air pressures made him extremely fast. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, would you rather have this look in a screwed up race car at the end of practice, or this look, which is all squiggly, with a perfectly fine race car, and you don't have to go and fix your car, and you get to start in 20 second or 16th instead of starting in 40th. Keep your air pressures up because you're not going to run the low air pressures in the race. You're not going to risk blowing out a tire. The only time you go super low on the air pressures or bump the air pressures up is if you have a really short run. So I don't understand why they keep, especially in practice, going super low on air pressures and end up wrecking the car and having a really crappy starting position. I just don't see the benefit of it. All right. I mean, this is where it's just silly. I mean, 40th place starting spot. Let's just go 20th. Get half of your stuff back. And you have 10 fast laps. Well, that's only 47.5. That's probably not going to be enough. So 15th is 57.5. But now we're at $9,000. That may actually play optimal. You know, and if he was that fast in practice, he's probably going to have a few more fast laps. And we got to remember, we're running 400 laps. So start in 40th, finish 15th, and have 15 fast laps, and you're going to be in the discussion for optimal. If he goes and gets a top 10, he's at 70. Go out and win the race, or finish second. So that way you don't have to lead any laps. 86.75. I'm not sure you go from 40th to second, but you've got plenty of time to do it. You have 400 laps. That's an eternity. It's going to take like 5 hours to run this race. They're going to start at 6 something, and they're not going to be done until 11:30. It's just crazy how long this race is. And Ross has done it before. He'll have no problem getting all the way through the entire race. Like I said, he's got an 11th place average finish. If he just goes and get the average, 67.5. So Ross is going to be 50 to 55% owned. And I know of at least 3 cars right out of the gate that Ross is going to pass. 2 of them I didn't even put into this breakdown because it's just not even worth my time. And then Cody Ware. He's going to get past Cody Ware. Yes, something wacky could happen. He could hit the wall on lap 20, and his day's done, and 60% of everybody's lineups are screwed up. That's a risk you take, but you're going to be with 60% of the other lineups. Kyle Spinny Bush, who can't even finish the truck race anymore. Well, he finished, but can't even win the truck race at Charlotte. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Kyle, but he just got signed for another year at Richard Childress. So congrats to Kyle on getting a contract extension through next year. And there's no reason not to take him. I mean, he's good for the sport. He's good for the team. Yeah, no problems. $8,800 starting in 24th. The only problem was they really screwed the car up because he couldn't even steer it. He didn't even make a lap in practice. He didn't wreck it, but they couldn't even get it steered. So they have no laps of practice. So we have nothing to go on the way of Kyle Busch's car. There's your practice laps. He's not even there. Starting in 24th with replaced steering. I don't know if they're going to have to make more adjustments, so definitely be something to keep an eye on tomorrow. If they make any more adjustments, he'll lose his starting spot, and he'll have to drop to the rear. And be credited with a 24th starting spot. So be kind of careful with Kyle Busch tomorrow. If everything goes as planned, he does start in 24th. We'll play with the numbers and just see what it's going to take. So his average finish is 19th. My guess is his average is not too good when it comes to... he's got an average laps led of 1 and an average fast laps of 3. Yeah, he's just not been good at mile and a half. So that was really his bread and butter for the longest time. That's going to take him to a 30.6. All right, so what does Kyle Spinny Busch need to get to? 10th? 49. And he's probably only going to need to get to about 55 points to be in the optimal. All right, 7th. All right, so 7th place. So Kyle Busch from 24th to 7th, which he has had a tough time doing this year. And you don't have to worry about fast laps or laps led. Now, if he does do that, he's probably going to have a few more, which will give you a little bit of a buffer. But either way, 55.6. He'll get some ownership, but I mean, I'll probably run what I run of Kyle just in case he happens to finally have a Kyle type of day, which typically has been lately not good. I'll have an old Kyle Busch type of day. But it's just risky. And once again, you've got Ross Chastain, $200 more, starting in 40th, who has had much better average finishes than Kyle recently. So there's that. And then we go to Chris Buescher, starting in 4th, 32nd in single lap practice speeds and 20th in 10 lap consecutive average. Not great, but he was in the second group. But we've seen some guys do really good in the second group. And Chris is the blue. And once again, we're seeing these Fords and these spikes. I don't know. He's pretty consistent through kind of lap 20. Now, this is when they did come in and make probably adjustments from the Ross Chastain spin. But the problem is they didn't fire off quick. So whatever adjustments they made, they went the wrong direction. At least in the way of speed. So, and then he goes out and qualifies 4th. A slight concern with the practice information we're getting, but it's a little misleading. He's starting in 4th. So let's plug it in just to see what would have to need to happen. Let's say he goes and wins. Leads 30 laps. Fast laps of 12 will get you 60.9. What happens if he goes to 3rd? That's right on the outside. So you're going to need to finish better than where you start. I mean, Chris runs these tracks pretty well. I mean, he's got what's his average finish? 18th. Starting in 4th. What's his Charlotte? Charlotte last year finished 23rd. Where did he finish the 23 race at? Chris Buescher finished 8th. And starting in 4th. I'm probably going to lean towards a fade. I think he's starting a little too far up. Yeah, I'll probably have him maybe in between 5 and 10% ownership. So I'm probably going to be a fade. I think this is a big, tough. This is a big ask. We'll see. Chase Briscoe. Practice speeds were, okay, being in the second group. But then went out and put out a blistering lap, starting from the pole, $8,400. Yeah, his average finish is 18.6 over the 5 races we're talking about, and 3 of those are in this number 19 Joe Gibbs car. So that's. I know they're leaning in the right direction, but starting in first. Next to Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson. Now it's Kyle Larson coming off of a potentially 500 mile race at Indy. I could see Chase Briscoe firing off. His practice speeds kind of look like the rest of the Toyotas and the Gibbs. They were very consistent in practice. That I do like. But you really want to start next to Kyle Larson, who's coming off of Indy? Yeah, there's a pro and a con to that. Starting from the pole, it makes it for a tough uphill climb. So we're going to start from the pole. Let's say we're not even going to go off his averages. Let's say he gets 5th. But because he's starting in the front row, let's say he's able to get out front. Let's say there's no cautions. They'll probably split the first stage into 2 stops. So 33 to 35 laps per. Because it's 100 lap. So you got to think, okay, so no caution, green flag, pit stops. He's going to lead 35 laps if he's able to get out front. It's still a big ask in my opinion. But then he falls to 5th and never leads any more laps because let's say they're slow on the right front tire and he loses the lead on the green flag pit stop. Yeah, I mean he's going to need to finish 2nd. No, he's gonna have to win. And that's leading 35 laps. I mean, would need to lead maybe the first and second half of stage 1, and then he could fall to 4th. Yeah, it's just starting from the pole, especially with a 400 lap race. It's a tough uphill climb, especially when your average finish is 19th. The best he's finished is 4th at these tracks. So that's just tough. I mean, you fall to your average, you're 24.85, even if you do lead 70 laps. I probably will have very, very little ownership in Chase Briscoe. I just don't trust it. Kind of like I don't trust Ty Gibbs right now either. He has gotten much better, just like Chase Briscoe. They both have been much improved. Starting in 7th, but Ty Gibbs was fast in practice. He is the control car that we've been looking at so far all night tonight. 21st place average finish, though, for the 5 races we're comparing to. He did have a 6th place finish at Charlotte last year for the Coke 373.5. Oh, Carolina? Nope, that's... Sorry, I'm watching the hockey game. Florida just scored again. So they're up 2-1 with 18 minutes in the third. 2 starts with a 6th place finish. Like I said, he was the control car for practice. Looking at practice, so he's good there. Starting in 7th, though, this is going to be a tough uphill climb. He's going to need to finish. Let's say he finishes 3rd, and let's say he's able to lead 25 laps. Is that going to be enough? Close. He leads 10 or has 10 fast laps. That puts him over the 55. So if you think Ty Gibbs is a top 5 driver, can lead 25 laps and have at least 10 fast laps, he's in the ballpark. And that's kind of that's the minimum that he's going to need to do to be there. One of these times, Ty Gibbs is going to make everybody look really, really dumb, and he's going to go lead over half the laps, and he's going to just dominate, and everybody's like, what? Where did that come from? We didn't see that at all. It's going to happen. I mean, Coke 600 could be a heck of a party. I'm willing to be burned by it at this point because I've been burned by it the other way too many other times. Thinking, okay, this is going to be Ty Gibbs' weekend, and then it just turns bad. Alex, the most average driver Bowman, people call him the showman, but it's really not a show. I'm just going to come out here, I'm going to start in 9th, I'm going to finish in 8th, and I'm not going to lead any laps, but it's where I'm going to finish. 18th in single lap, 15th in 10 lap consecutive average. He was in Group 2. He finished 9th in this race last year. He's starting 9th in this race this year. He's got a 13.6 average finish. Practice speeds were pretty good. They came back in during that red flag caution and came back out and fired off just like most other people, pretty strong. So let's see what this gives us. 9th place start. 9th place finish. And what is his averages? Back to the right page again. Alex, I'm boring Bowman. 1 lap led and 7.8 fast laps. Pretty much what we got. We're going to lead a lap. And we're going to have 8 fast laps. 38.85. So, Showman, I'm just average Bowman, needs to get to a top 4, top 3. Yeah, it's just a tough uphill climb. Even if you're just consistent and just stay where you're at, maybe an 8th. Maybe you do have 10 fast laps, but you probably don't lead any laps. It's not what he goes and does. It's 41.5. It's not enough. I'm a fade on Bowman. All right. Hopefully you're writing down all the people you're going to keep and not keep. What's up, Fish? Not sure who to pick this week. Maybe Larson. Larson's your pick. Do you think Larson wins the Indy 500 too, though? That's the real question. Does Kyle Larson win both? Let me know in the chat, Fish. Thanks for all the hearts and whatever the stuff that you were doing over there. That was kind of cool. Yes. At what we've learned in motorsports is anybody can win anything, except for me at iRacing. Even you beat me at that. So, Josh Berry, 7,800. I mean, won Las Vegas earlier this year. Why can't he win the Coke 600? Maybe it's the Coke 373.5 like last year. Maybe Josh Berry wins. I'm kidding. Starting in 18th, $7,800. 31st in practice. He did not do a 10-lap consecutive average run, which is a little concerning. And like the other Penske's and Fords, he was slow and a little erratic. Starting in 18th. It's got a 12th place finish, though. So let's plug this in. 18th. And you get your average finish of 12th. And how many fast laps does he typically have? 16 and 11. 16 laps led and 11 fast laps. Put you at 49.5. So we're going to need for Josh Berry to get to 9th, 8th. 8th place would probably get you there. At $7,800 would definitely get you there. I don't mind this play at all. And I think he potentially gets overlooked. Not a whole lot of other people over here. I mean, Ty Gibbs starting in 7th. I don't know if you'd take that. Alex Bowman starting in 9th. You probably skip over that. You get down to Josh Berry. Okay, 18th. He won Vegas earlier this year. I could see him getting some ownership. So it's probably not going to be real sneaky. And it's not overly difficult for him to get close to the optimal lineup discussion. And then we've got Brad K. So some people could skip over Josh to get to Brad, but Brad's been about horrendous this year. Other than his qualifying run and first, 50 laps at North Wilkesboro last week. On that, it's been really bad. But $7,600 starting in 35th. Promise he might just finish there. 19.4 average finish. Let's look at his practice speeds. He is in the blue. I mean, out of the Fords, he actually was showing a little bit better speed, but he was in Group 1. He should have been a little bit faster. But not awful. I don't think it's not horrendous. It's not Joey Logano bad. It's not Ryan Blaney bad. At least in the way of practice speeds. So, what is 35th? I mean, it's not going to take a whole lot. 35th. I mean, finishing 17th. No, he's going to have to do better than that. 12th. 13th? I mean, 13th or 14th without really having any fast laps or laps led. I mean, if he gets his average finish of 19th, that almost puts him there. What is his average finish? 40. Oops. Oh gosh, what did I do? I don't know. I did something wrong. That's sheet 2. That's the reason why. Okay, there it is. Yeah, 19th doesn't quite cut it. He's going to need to get to a top 15 at least and probably have a little more than 2 fast laps. That could be a potential really big uphill climb for Brad. because it's been a brutal, brutal year for Brad to start this year. But one of these races, kind of like Ty Gibbs, one of these races, Brad's going to bounce back. And he did finish second in this race last year, even though it was 373.5 miles. But more of what I was talking about is, do you skip over a Josh Berry starting in 18th, who's won at a mile and a half, and go to Brad Keselowski, $200 cheaper starting in 35th? I think people are going to skip over Josh. It's kind of what I was trying to say. So I like Josh Berry as kind of a sneaky pick, even though it's not real sneaky because he did win at Vegas earlier, and at the other mile and a half, he's performed well. He's had a couple rough patches, but Brad's been just on a absolute skitter all year. Austin Cindric, $7,500 starting in 14th. He was in Group 2, unlike his teammates. I think Joey was in Group 2 also. But Ryan Blaney was in Group 1. Austin Cindric, 7,500, starting 14th. He was 20th in single lap, 12th in 10 lap. I mean, decent practice speed. Finished 20th in this race last year, so he kind of finishes where he starts. And his practice speeds, he's in the blue, was pretty consistent. They had the caution. They came back in. They made some repairs, cooled off the tires, and he went back and fired off pretty well. So his practice speeds were much better than the rest of the Penske boys. So out of the Penske group, he looks to be pretty good. But starting in 14th, we're going to need to do... He's going to need to get to 5th and have 6 fast laps and 5 laps led. Is that something possible for Cindric? I mean, 21.4 average laps led. So that definitely helps him out if we're hitting the averages. So 21 and 6. And then if you just finish in 5th, I mean, you're definitely in the optimal discussion starting in 14th. Oh, wow. Florida scored again. It might be over for Carolina. So I think Austin Cindric could easily get overlooked and could be potentially a sleeper pick starting in 14th. Kind of like Josh is. So I think if I'm looking for sleepers, and if Matt joins or whatever, he always likes the sleepers, family guy, family man. Josh Berry, Austin Cindric, and what did I say up top? Was it Bell? Was probably going to be potentially a sleeper. Oh, maybe Reddick. Yeah. There are a couple sleepers up there also. I'll have to go back and rewind my own show and see who I've picked as sleepers. I always lose track of this because I'm too busy doing all these other things. So yeah, 55.95 for the fifth place finish if he leads 21 laps. It's not bad. I actually think Austin Cindric's a decent play. Oh my god, did Florida just score again? They're up 4-1. Oh my god, they're killing them. It's over. Bubba Wallace, $7,300, starting in the 32nd spot. Bubba, what did you do on your qualifying lap? It was actually pretty bad. He missed it. He even admittedly missed it. It was bad. He was 7th in single lap practice and 21st in 10 lap consecutive average. And that's kind of what I'm saying. You've got Austin Cindric at $200 more expensive, starting in 14th. Brad at $7,500 or $7,600, starting in 35th. Austin Cindric's absolutely going to get overlooked because people are either going to go after Brad or potentially even go cheaper and go to Bubba Wallace. So, I mean, he's got an average finish of 21.8 at the 5 races we're comparing to, but he had an 11th place finish here at the Coke 373.5. And his practice speeds looked just like very close and similar to the rest of the Toyotas. Really consistent, nice and even. So, what do we need Bubba Wallace to do? If he gets a 6th place finish and has 7 laps led, I think starting in 32nd, we could take his laps led out. That's a tough uphill climb. He could have 8 fast laps though. If he finishes at 6, that's going to be phenomenal. Let's move him down to 13th, 52.6. So we're going to need to probably get to 10th. 10th's more than we need. 12th? Yeah, so 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in there for Bubba Wallace. I mean, very possible to do. I definitely like the Bubba Wallace play, but buyer beware, so will a lot of other people. He'll be 35% owned, probably my guess. And then we've got Carson Hocevar, starting in 39th, who spun it out on his qualifying lap. I mean, not a real good sign if we're thinking about how do we make it through 400 laps if I can't make it through one fast lap. I'm kind of joking, but I mean, and Carson Hocevar has had a tough uphill climb, and his practice speeds were fast, slow, fast, slow, fast. He was very inconsistent. If you're going to fade anybody starting from the back, I mean, have some ownership in Carson, but he has had a rough go at it this year with finishing races. They've raced really well in the middle part of a race. They just have not been able to seal the deal. Once again, one of these races, Carson's going to seal the deal and get like a second place finish like he did at Atlanta. Or he potentially, I mean, he's got the speed if he can make it to the end of one of these things. And that's the other worry. Does he make it to the end of a 600-mile race? That's tough. It's real easy for him to make optimal. I mean, he's starting in 39th, next to last. He could probably finish 20th, because all he's got to do is get to 50 points at $7,200. Yeah, 20th doesn't quite cut it. He's going to need to get to 17th. Yeah, 17th will cut it. I mean, that's not a huge uphill climb. But Carson's also had a tough time finishing 17th, to be perfectly honest. I mean, he's got an average finish of 25th. So that's a tough one. Ryan Preece, $7,100, starting in 28th. Man, Ryan, that was a tough call, and that was really dumb of you to hit the cone last week, or you would have made the All-Star race, and he was fast. But once again, here are the Fords. Average, slow, fast, slow. I mean, this is somewhat concerning. Was he in Group 2? Yeah, he was in Group 2, so this was probably the caution. One of these was the caution. And then they came in adjustments and probably didn't make the right adjustments. But he was pretty consistent. Starting in 28th, we've got a decent amount of room to run. And out of the RFK cars, he's running as fast, if not faster, than Buescher is. Definitely running faster than his boss, Brad. But starting in 28th, I mean, it's not going to take a whole lot to get to 50. 28th to 12th almost gets you there. 10th definitely gets you there. So can Ryan Preece get a 10th place finish? Absolutely, I think so. And once again, I mean, he's not quite sandwiched like the rest of them. So he's a decent pick. And I actually like the Ryan Preece pick. Just because a lot of people don't necessarily go after him a whole lot. And you've got Bubba Wallace, Ryan Preece right in front of him. They're just slightly more expensive. Does somebody take $100 savings and go down to a Ryan Preece? Maybe. Starting in 28th, I'll definitely have some shots on him. I mean, all he's got to do is get up to 10th. It's not a huge uphill climb for somebody who's actually been running really, really well lately. What did he finish in this race? That race last year, 26. So maybe, oh my God, Florida scored. No, yeah, Florida scored again. They're up 5-1. Good Lord. Daniel Suarez, 6,900, starting in 25th. Finished in 24th last year, 18.6 average finish. He was 15th in single lap, 13th in 10 lap consecutive average. Daniel's another one who just can't seem to close out a race. He's got speed in the car. They qualify horribly and work their way through the front, and then just sometimes he gets overlooked a lot too, but probably for good reason. practice speeds, I mean, this is good, solid practice speeds all the way through. You know, what Daniel needs to do is just get a good finish. He just has had some real struggles getting the deal done. And we've got 400 laps, which makes it a little difficult. Now, he's run this race many, many times, so he knows what he's getting into. But starting in 25th, I mean, this is going to be very similar to what we just looked at. But starting in 25th, average finish is 19th. We'll start there, and we'll work our way down. That's 30.9. That's not going to even really cut it to be in the top 15. So you're going to need to finish 12th, or better than that. You're going to need to finish 8th, 9th. 9th is kind of the spot. Top 10. Can Daniel Suarez get a top 10? Yeah. I think he could sneakily, very quietly get a top 10, and you wouldn't ever even know that he ran the race. Andrew, what's going on after the Xfinity race? Do you think some attrition plays will work? Yes. I mean, the truck race didn't have Benny, and we only ran the Coke 393. Oh my God, Florida scored again. How many times have they scored literally in the last? I mean, there's 9 minutes left in this game, and I think at the 5-minute mark it was 2-1. Charlotte 2023. We had 25 cars still on the lead lap of 37 that started the race. Really out of the race, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars out of the race. I mean, that's not a whole lot of attrition. But we do have a different tire. The track has started to age even more, and it is much bumpier than in the past. Do I think we'll have something similar to Texas? I don't think so. But I also would have thought that last 2 weeks ago, Kansas would have been more compelling than it was. I mean, the Coke 600 typically is not an attrition style race, even though it's really long. I mean, there is some attrition, don't get me wrong about that. Let me go to 2000. Let me look at this. My full. So 2023, we had like 6 cars not finished. In 2022, I'll just move this over here so everybody can see it too. In 2022, you guys really can't see that on the window. There it is. This is the finishes, and the laps led or laps finished over here. I mean, we definitely had at least 2 shots at overtime. We looks like had 23 make it to lap 400. We had a much bigger attrition in 2022. That was also the first year of the next gen car. And that car, which is still the same car, was a massive handful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Looks like 13 cars didn't finish that race. So the 2021, a little more consistent. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like probably, yeah. No. Probably 1, 2, 3. Probably 3 cars, 4 cars that got wrecked out of 38. You had 14 cars finished on the lead lap. Charlotte, that was a COVID year. It was really screwy. 2019, you had 17 cars on the lead lap. What probably appears to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cars that didn't finish the race. So I mean, it's not a super high attrition race. I don't think it's going to be I think it's going to be as chaotic as the Xfinity race. When we go look at the Xfinity race, can I even pull that at this point. Xfinity results. The Betting GM 300 results. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You had 7 cars wreck out of the Xfinity race. Now, we had more than that ended up having problems. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 out of 38 cars who had damage. In fact, more than that, because Harrison Burton had damage, and so did Jeb Burton. That was at the very last lap. Well, Harrison wasn't, Jeb was. Brandon Jones had damage. Chris Wright definitely had damage. He spun out. I mean, you had Ryan Ellis get his first top 10 ever in the Xfinity Series today. So yeah, it was a mess. I don't think it'll be as severe as we saw in the Xfinity race. But I also didn't. I mean, with like 40 laps to go, I thought they were going to be fine and they were going to run it out, and Allgaier would win, and it was going to be done. That didn't turn out to be the way it happened. Anyway, that's Xfinity. No, I don't think it's going to be as extreme as Xfinity. Will we have attrition? Absolutely. We'll have some wrecks? Yeah. But I mean, the Coke 600, it's 400 laps. I mean, heck, half the time at 267 laps. At Texas, I didn't think was going to be the absolute crap show that it was 3 weeks ago, but that happened. And the Xfinity race there was an absolute crap show too. So I don't know. But Daniel Suarez, is that where we left off? Daniel Suarez needs to get a 9th place finish, and he could quietly do that. That's what I was talking about. Noah Gragson, $1,600 starting in the 8th position. You know what? I mean, his practice speeds were okay. They were actually a little quick. He was in Group 2, so that was actually not bad. But he's starting in 8th. For him to get to 50 points, he's going to need to have a miracle of a day, and there's just nothing that he has shown. If he finishes in 8th, that's 36. He's going to need to 4th? Nope. 3rd? Nope. Finish in 3rd, he's going to need a lot of help. 15 fast laps? That, to me, is a little over the 50 at that point. 4th? Yeah. Top 5 and have 15 fast laps for Noah Gragson, which hasn't shown that yet this year at all, and I think he's only shown it once in the last 3 years. So I'm a fade on Noah Gragson, just like I think most everybody will be. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 6,700, starting in 11th. Ricky could easily start and finish right there. This is when they had the caution. They came in, they fired off fast and slowed back up again. Starting 11th, it's a tough hill to climb, even to get to 45 points. I mean, $6,700. So he doesn't have to reach the threshold like a William Byron does. Starting 11th, that's going to be an 8th place finish. No, it's going to have to be a 5th place finish. Can Ricky start in 11th, finish in 5th, not lead any laps, and have 4 fast laps? Potentially. Doubtful, though. It's just... I mean, he is good about saving his stuff and waiting to the end while still being aggressive. And that's the problem, is Ricky just has a tendency sometimes to be over-aggressive. Eric Jones starting in the 27th position. He was in Group 1. He was 6th fastest in single lap, 10th and 10-lap consecutive average. He was in Group 1, so he wasn't even with the caution. And that's Ricky's. I messed that up. There's my mess up for the week. This is supposed to be Eric Jones and not Ricky. Oh, well, I'm not going to fix it. Starting in 27th. I think he's got an average finish of 23rd. I mean, Eric Jones could be easily in play. Not a 23rd place finish, though, because that's only 26 points. We're going to need to get Eric up to 14th. Yeah. Which I think is doable. You're not going to lead a lap, that's for sure. But that's still 45.6. 8 fast laps. I mean, if you come from 27th to get to 14th, you'll have some fast laps. So that definitely 45.6 could easily be in play, and all it takes is a 14th place finish by Eric. They've been performing well enough to get there. Austin Dillon 6,400 starting in 26th, kind of the same thing that Eric Jones starting in 27th. It's not going to take a whole lot at $6,400 to get close. His practice speeds were, I mean, yeah, he's starting in 26. He was slower in practice. I don't need him to be lights out in practice at this point. He's got a 19.4 average finish. I mean, he's been consistently finishing better than Kyle Busch. But, I mean, once again, he's going to get to 13th, 12th. Oops, I got to finish that. He's starting in 26. Yeah, I mean, 12th or 13th. I mean, I think he could probably get there. Just as much as I think Eric Jones could finish with a 13th or 14th place finish. I think both of them are very viable, and I think they potentially get slightly overlooked. Now, I'm not going to be super heavy on them, but they could easily slip through the cracks and be a little sneaky, and I don't mind playing either one of them probably more than the field would. And I think the field's probably going to be 10% owned. So, you know, I might end up with 15 or 20%. Michael Vidal starting in 15th. I just don't. At best, he's going to get back to 15th. His practice speeds were okay. But starting in 15th, there's a lot to get to 45 at that point. He's going to need to finish, 6th? And all right, maybe not 6th, 8th? I don't think he's leading laps. And now, I mean, you got to think, at Texas, he snuck up and had a great pit strategy and vied for the win until he wrecked. Once again, he wrecked. But an 8th place finish for Michael McDowell would put him close to being in the discussion for optimal. It's just a really uphill climb when your average finish is 21.8 and a 21.4 out of 25 total starts at Charlotte. You're asking a lot to finish in the top 10. Kind of asking a lot for Austin Dillon and Eric Jones to finish top 14, but that's 6 spots different. AJ Allmendinger starting in 5th. I mean, congrats on AJ. He was really fast in practice, and he has been running much better, and he's been one of those that's been very sneaky, but the problem is he's not finishing 5th. He's finishing 8th, 9th, 10th. I mean, his practice speeds looked really good. Very consistent, very quick. He was in the first practice session. But starting in 5th, it's just, you cannot miss at all. And AJ's not a patient driver. I mean, yeah, I mean, finish your average, and he's not even going to have 1.15. And that's if he leads a lap. And if he finishes where he starts, he's at a 40. It's still not enough to make the potential optimal, even at 6,100. He would need to finish 2nd? Yeah, it's just, he's starting too far up. I'm a fade. Probably like most people. Connor Zilic, who had a really, really good race in the Xfinity Series today, I think potentially could have a decent race tomorrow. And let's say he follows suit with Corey Heim and ends up and gets into a 13th place spot. He will be the youngest driver to ever start the Coke 600 at age 18. I've seen crazier things happen. Jeff Gordon won the damn thing a long time ago when he was really young. Wasn't 18. I think he was like 23 or 24. But starting in 33rd, what does Connor Zilic and he's only going to need to get to 45 points. Let's fix that first. Starting in 33rd, I mean, it's not going to take a whole lot to get to 45 points. We've already seen that a couple times tonight. I mean, you get to 12th, that's 52. 15th, 16th, 17th, 16th. Yeah, 16th with 3 fast laps, get you at 45. I mean, potentially, yes. I mean, that's 3 spots worse than Corey Haim 2 weeks ago. And Connor Zilic was vying for the win in the Xfinity race today. I mean, I don't mind taking some Connor Zilic. I think he probably gets overlooked, just like I think Corey Haim gets overlooked last week, and made the optimal. So, sneaky play, number 4 or 5 for the day, Connor Zilic, $6,000. Todd Gillen starting in 34th at 5,900 absolutely is in play. He has a 20.4 average finish. He finished 17th in this race. He was pretty consistent for a Ford in practice. So I definitely do not mind taking some Todd Gillen. He's actually quietly been having an okay year this year. Probably close to where his average is, 20th. Doesn't quite pass the smell test. He's going to need to get to 16th, and that will do it. So Todd Gillen, 34th to 16th with only 1 fast lap, gives you 45 points. That puts him in the discussion of optimal. Very, very close. Zane Smith, 5,800, starting in 23rd. Zane's quietly been having a very good year and averaging close to top 10 finishes. Now, starting in 23rd, I think just getting to 9th, I don't know if that passes the smell test. Well, it does. 23rd to 9th gets you 49 points. If he goes to 12th, 42 points. So 11th. 11th, 3 fast laps will do the trick. 45.3. That's what we're kind of looking for Zane Smith. I think it's very doable. I don't think it's out of the realm by any means. Zane's been running much, much better than he had last year. I think it's definitely possible. It's a tough hill to climb, but I don't mind having some ownership. I'm not going to be a complete fade. Where I'll be a complete fade with John Hunter Nemechek. It's just like with AJ starting in 5th. It's just too much to try to overcome. And they're not showing the speed. I mean, his practice speeds were okay, but not phenomenal. So I'm not even going to plug it in. We've already seen what 5th place does, and 6th place isn't going to be any better. Justin Haley starting in 13th with a 19.4 average finish. He was 17th and 6th in practice. We can look at his practice speeds. Practice speeds were good, but I think it's going to go and finish where I start. And we're still going to need to get to 45 points. I think 45 points is the bare minimum. 13th to finish in 13th to 30.9. He's going to need to get to 6th. Yeah. 6th place finish for Justin Haley, who has an average finish of 19th. And, I mean, his best finish for the 5 racers we're comparing to is 14th. The best at similar style tracks, mile and a half, is 10th. And the best on the trend line is 10th. He needs to get to 6th. I'm a fade. Jimmy Johnson, think he's great. Wish him the best of luck, but he's starting in 17th, and his practice speeds are 27th and 27th, and he's really just running a testing car, and a car to go run a 700th race, which is unbelievable. But yeah, he was not that fast in practice, and to start in 17th, I'm a fade. It's too. Yeah, I mean, I know he's an 8-time winner at Charlotte, but I'm a fade on that. He'll get some ownership because he's Jimmy Johnson. Cole Custer starting at 29th at $5,400. Practice speeds were 28th and 33rd in a single lap. I think he might finish where he starts. I mean, he was definitely slower than Ty Gibbs, but I didn't expect him to be fast. And I mean, this is where we're now in the realm that you can get to 40 points. Because you now open the door for some really high, stacking 3 of the high price guys if you take Cole Custer's in the race. So starting 29th, how do we get to 40 points? 15th do it? Yeah. Can Cole Custer get a 15th? That's a challenge. He can go to 16th. If we have a lot of attrition and Cole's not one of them, like Andrew was talking about, if we have a massive attrition race and Cole's not one of the ones that's being taken out, he'll be in play. But you're asking for a lot of things to happen for Cole Custer to get close to the optimal of 40. And that's only because of his price tag. Oh, he's 5,400. I was like, he can't be 5,300 because SVG's 5,300. Starting in 30th. Same type of thing. But the problem is, as much as Shane has struggled on ovals, Shane's pit crew has really cost him many times this year. Either wheels not being put on tight, wrong adjustments during the race, or just slow pit stops. And that just puts him behind, and then he gets into further trouble. Starting in 30th, I just don't know if Shane can finish much better. He finished 28th in this race last year. Remember, it was a 373, not 600. This would be Shane Van Gisbergen's longest race ever. I'm telling you, the concentration it has to take to get through this race tomorrow is grueling, and I just don't know if Shane's got that. And it's kind of like Cole. I mean, Cole starting in 29th, he's going to need to get to 16th. Same thing's going to have to happen to Shane. If he's starting in 30th, he's going to have to get to 16th or 17th. Is it possible? Sure. It's just that's a tough hill to climb for somebody who has not shown that they can. 20th doesn't cut it. 15th probably cuts it. Maybe 16th. I don't know. I don't love it. Ty Dillon starting in 19th, and I think that's probably about the best of what you get. He was 34th in single lap, 31st in 10 lap. He's been running much better, but I think he probably finishes 19th. For him to get way up there, let's see. For him to get to 40-ish points, he's going to need to finish 9th. So Ty Dillon with a top 10 finish on a 400, 600 mile race. 400 lap, 600 mile race. I don't think it's going to happen. Riley Herbst starting in 31st. Same thing. It's just he's got the worst pit crew at 2311. End of all the Toyotas. He's got the least amount of experience. This would be the longest race that he's ever run. And he's starting in 31st. Even at $5,000, his practice speeds were not good. This track is super bumpy. It's just not conducive for Riley to make it that long. Starting in 31st, he's going to need to finish 17th at minimum, probably closer to 15th. You could take some shots because next is Cody Ware starting in 36, and his practice speeds were even worse than anybody. Not surprising. But he's got an average finish of 32nd for 3 of the 5 races, and 3 total races at Charlie's got a 28.7, starting in 36. Even at $4,800, it just doesn't pass the smell test. I didn't finish filling out this sheet. This was the last year. Hold on. I've got the new sheet. Where is my ranking sheet? I've added a bunch of new sheets to my spreadsheet. So let's go over here. All right. So, yeah, I absolutely still love Kyle Larson. I like William Byron. I'm not sure I put both of them in the same lineup, so I would probably choose one or the other. Ross Chastain, it's just too easy for Ross to get there, and everybody and their mother is going to take Ross. It's going to be a 60% owner. It's going to be one of those that either you have Ross and be with the field, and if Ross ends up with a 15th place finish, he'll be in the optimal. And that's just the free square. Or you could be on the 40% end of not having Ross him actually having an issue finishing 38th, and you've now eliminated 60% of the field. Sure, I'm only probably going to run Ross in 45%. Probably not going to have him in 60. But I think he needs to be in one of the larger. He's kind of a must play. Where Kyle Larson is maybe, a William Byron is a maybe. I think a William Byron is a great cash play. But as far as coming from the back, I think I like the Ryan Blaney. I think Chase Elliott's definitely in there. Josh Berry could easily be in play and be very low owned. Bubba Wallace, Brad Keselowski, I think those are all just as viable as a Ross Chastain. Now, I think you need to be somewhat careful because not all of these guys are going to be able to come from the back. Now, I will run 80 lineups tomorrow. Will I have a lineup that will have a Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, Brad Keselowski, Carson Hocevar? Absolutely. Because if they all four make it to the top 10, all four of them, and whoever happens to lead the most laps and finish in first or second, will be the optimal lineup. Just because there's too many points available out there for Ross and for Bubba and for Brad and for Carson Hocevar. So I think they're definitely potentially, yeah. I mean, you want to run them, and they're going to be 35-40% owned across the field. So, I mean, I think a Denny Hamlin may not be as high owned. I think a Ryan Blaney could be not as high owned. Tyler Reddick starting in 12th could be a little bit sneaky. Who else was sneaky? I think Zane Smith could easily be a fairly sneaky pick. I think Ryan Preece could be a fairly sneaky pick. Zillage will probably be pretty low owned, and like we said, we only need to get up to 15th. I mean, it could be a little bit of a tough uphill climb, but I mean, the kid's really good. But this is a long race. But I mean, he's 18, he's young, he'll be all right. And he has had a lot of long races. He's raced the Daytona 24 hour. Now, it's not him by himself racing for 24 hours, but he has run, I don't know, whatever it is, 6 or 8 hours in 24 hours. So he's young. He'll be fine. He's not Jimmy Johnson. Not that Jimmy Johnson's not going to make the end of this race, but Connor could easily have much more focus towards the end, is kind of what I'm saying. So something else so I'll just kind of bring in what I have been working on. So I took the same type of thing. Let's see, I've got to make this fit my screen correctly. Bear with me one second. So I have been running these algorithms a little bit on the side. So I've taken what my little cheat sheet thing that I do. When you can adjust the points, I can do the same things here. So then it has my full breakdown of total points. And this is the high end on what I think might happen and who to potentially play. So Ross, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Josh Berry, all with potential of 70 points or more. On the low end of things, Jimmy Johnson, Cody Ware. I didn't even do Josh Bilicki or Derek Krause. It's not worth my time. But AJ's on the low end. Ty Dillon's on the low end. Cole Custer, Justin Haley, Shane Van Gisbergen. I'm going to avoid playing these guys. I'm going to play the guys up here in the green. Now, I did the same thing and went with what's their possible floor and changed it. So I had Kyle Larson as a possible finish of 10th, but he still led 50 laps. I mean, I still made things kind of realistic, but they just didn't quite get the finish that I was hoping that they'd get. So he falls to 10th. You know, things like Ross Chastain only getting to 20th and doesn't really lead any laps. And that changes the variable a bit. It makes Carson Hocevar as one of the better picks and getting 56 points on the low end. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to break down. I think I would rather have Chase Dominator points. Chase Briscoe? You think Briscoe's going to be the Dominator? I mean, Yes, and we talked about that. I'm not sure if you were in here yet. So if we go to Chase Briscoe's calculator real quick and break that down again real fast for you. Briscoe, Chase Briscoe. Starting from the pole. So we got to broke this down. And if he leads the first 2/3 of stage 1, and then finishes in 5th, that gets him 53.85 points. I'm thinking that at 8,400, his optimal range needs to be 55 points or more. Now, he's probably going to have more fast laps than that if he leads 70 laps. He'll probably get closer to 15, let's say. Well, that's 59.5. So Chase Briscoe needs to go out and lead 70 laps, finish in 5th with 15 fast laps, and he'll be in the potential optimal. Now, also remember that Chase Briscoe was $8,400. He's got an average finish of 19th. Now, his practice speeds were very consistent with Ty Gibbs, so not far off. But you got to have almost a mistake-free rest of your race. So does everybody. Whoever's going to end up winning this whole thing is going to. The problem is I just don't know how much I trust Chase Briscoe to do that. He won Darlington. It's one of the toughest tracks out there. And he did it in the Southern 500. That's 367 laps, I think is what it was. 327 laps. We're talking close to the same amount of lap count. So, yeah, I'm not going to be a complete fade on Chase Briscoe. But either way, let's go back to what I was just looking at a second ago, which was this. So then I have all their low points. And then I've got the average. So if I take their average high, their average low from those two charts, and I get the average. And this would be my core play. So Larson, Hocevar, Kozlowski, Chastain, Blaney, Byron, Bell, Wallace, Berry, Hamlin, Elliott, Reddick, Preece. I guess that's probably my top 15. And you've got some savings in there. You got Corson and Hocevar at 7,200. You've got Bubba Wallace at 7,300. You've got Ryan Preece at 7,100. Mixed in with maybe one or two of the really cheaps. And you can put together a pretty decent lineup. So that's kind of how I'm breaking this all down. I don't know how it's all going to completely come together tomorrow when I build all my lineups. But these are some of the tools that I'm kind of working on in the background of how do I think these things end up getting played out. And the fun part will be, after it's all said and done, what the actual point totals were, and see if I'm getting closer and closer to getting the Rosetta Stone of DFS racing. I'm kidding. It'll never happen. But if I can get closer and closer, it always helps. So either way, I have now kept you guys over 2 hours, but I knew I had so much information, and I've been digging for almost 2 weeks for this race. And just hopefully it'll turn out to be worth our time. But either way, I appreciate everybody tuning in, making sure you hit the like button. I think this is the highest view count I've had so far for live stream. And I appreciate everyone tuning in next Saturday for Nashville. I can't remember what time the Xfinity race is, but I think it's early enough that I will be live at 9 p.m. on next Saturday. Hopefully we won't take quite as much information and much time next week. I expect these things to be about an hour and a half. I'm about 30 minutes past. Ken, thanks for sticking around for the whole thing. I think you've been here for the entire thing. Hopefully you got enough information. Hopefully you go out and take the engineer down, or you take the chrome horn down. If you do, let me know. Would love to celebrate with you. But yeah, me breaking all of this down helps my mind process who I want to take, who I don't want to take, who I may have missed when I was kind of going through all my breakdowns. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, and good luck. We will see everyone next week for Nashville. Good luck and enjoy the best day in racing tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
Can you still taste the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checkered flag, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job.